Black music provided a language of rebellion that we didn't have in our own culture because rebellion and risk taking is kind of looked down upon in
Mm-hmm.
Asian cultures as like a repercussion of like colonialism and not having anything and having it taken away. So you don't want to take risks. But I think we have a long way to go.
Microphone check, 1 2. What is this? It's the 5'7" assassin in the podcast business. I am your host, Rohan Patra, the rap music plug at your service. Here we are again at the end of the rainbow. Few things have been more important to me in my life than hip hop music. Growing up, I really lacked identity and a sense of community. So, as I continued to listen to more and more hip hop music in my teens and early 20s, it quickly became a key vessel for me to learn about the world, but also connect with a culture and an ethos that I resonated with and begin to feel like I belong to something or I fit somewhere. But it wasn't all the way perfect early on because as an Indian guy, it was rare that I ever saw someone who looked like me contributing to this art form. But that all changed once I heard the music of Heems, known for his work in Das Racist, Swet Shop Boys, and as a solo artist, who injected his Indian roots into his brand of witty, thoughtful hip hop, hailing from Queens, New York. And he was really invariably the one that helped me see that there was indeed a space for people like me in hip hop after all. So I'm pleased to welcome the man, Heems himself, as well as Chicago based producer Lapgan to the show, who produced the wonderful instrumental album History from last year, as well as the new collaborative album with Heems, LAFANDAR. In today's episode, we talk about incorporating Indian culture into hip hop, Heems' new venture Veena, and the making of this incredibly creative new album. This was a really special one. I hope you enjoy it. The Rap Music Plug podcast presented by QLC TV is the remedy to the I don't have anything good to listen to problem. Through in-depth artist interviews, album reviews, and general rap commentary on the best that the underground rap scene has to offer, this is your one-stop shop to knowing what to add to your queue, play next, or pop into your record player. Welcome to the show. Heems, how are you doing today?
No, I'm doing pretty well. Having a good productive day.
That's good.
Just dropped off a bunch of vinyl and getting ready for this album that's coming out on Friday and more releases and a lot of videos right now. So I'm excited. This is like a lot of the stuff that I really enjoy is the whole kind of creative direction of the album.
Mm-hmm.
Recording it kind of comes easy to me, but the kind of world you build around the music is, what I get excited about.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see how you all put this together. Saw like recent Instagram posts. You got the nice whips out for one of the videos. Let
But
me
the
send you see what
Bentley
that
out,
is.
and that was
Yeah,
the Sikh brother brought the Bentley out. He had his like Sikh knife on his hip. He was awesome.
that's amazing. Man, I'm just saying, really happy to have you on the show. I mean, I've said it several times on this show, like you're a big inspiration for really my experience with hip hop, and I'm sure a lot of other kind of Indian folks out there, Desi folks out there. And yeah, I kind of want to just start with this. So, one of your core themes in your music is this idea of identity and your Indian culture. And, growing up in Queens, that's obviously one of the most diverse cities on really in the entire planet. And I'm just curious to know, like, how were your early days ingratiating yourself into the hip hop community? Did you feel immediately welcome, or if not, how did that eventually change over time?
Mm, I mean, I guess I alluded to this a little bit. Like, as a professional rapper, like, often I felt like I didn't really feel like an outsider, but I felt like people kind of like put an outsider tag on me. Like, this is funny stuff. This is like hipster stuff. This is Indian stuff. I mean, I think over time I've just done a job of like being, I think by now it should be pretty clear. Like, I was also curious, like, yeah, I could rap and people fuck with me. And, you know, um, I'm good at this. So that feels good. But there weren't a lot of like Indian kids rapping when I was growing up, but there were always like two or three in the neighborhood in Queens. And when you would spit, they'd always be like, "Oh, you know Sanjay from Bronx Science?" And I'd be like, "Man." And so I don't know, like I never really felt weird about rapping because like I was always around a lot of different minorities, and basketball and rap were pretty much like a part of my life. And the first like street team stickers I saw in the park around here were Nas. And so it's
Mm.
kind of crazy to like now be signed to Nas's label and like pretty full circle. Like I think It Was Written was like one of the first tapes I bought. So I don't know. Like I always kind of do what I do, but I think I let the talent and like, I'm a huge Donnell Jones fan, obviously I should be allowed to, you know, make music that is like rap.
I feel like you're touching on something I find really interesting because like where you're from, where you grew up, and your communities, like that kind of does make sense. It's kind of what I've heard from other, just other people in New York. Like it's just such a different environment when you're in such a hip hop community that's just, it's a lot of people are rapping in your community, I'm sure, but also um just being in a place that's already very diverse like that. Whereas I feel like a lot of what you touched on at the beginning is like you feel like maybe other people looked at you like outside of your actual community of day to day may have looked at you and put these labels on you initially. And I think that speaks to the experience I feel like of a lot of listeners that are outside of New York and are potentially desi, maybe not, and that are just living and experiencing your music from an outsider perspective. Because I've shared this remark before. I actually did a whole like bonus episode about it, which is that I feel like your music in particular and folks like you that have really made a mark in hip hop as uh someone from the Desi community actually showed me the importance of representation. Because honestly, prior to that, I wasn't really one of those people that understood the importance. I kind of just thought like what is this really gonna do if there's like some movie that has, certain races or certain gender or sexual identities, and like what is that really gonna do for people? I kind of felt like it was overblown, and I think I I really came to learn something differently because through my experience, something I mentioned before we hit record here is that I grew up in a very white community in Ottawa. And so I already felt a bit divorced from my own community as like an Indian person. But then on top of that, I was growing and really falling in love with hip hop. But I almost felt weirdly almost more alienated as I got closer to hip hop because I'm like, man, like I don't feel like I'm a part of this. I feel like I don't belong. And then just seeing you not only fucking rap well, but just show off to people like this is what Indian culture could be in North America. It's not like Big Bang Theory, and I just think it was really important to me.
Like I didn't a couple of things there like to unpack. Like for one, I totally thought visibility was very important. And so you see people who are Indian doing things that aren't stereotypical, like getting the girl or smoking weed and Harold and Kumar or, just all these South Asians that have come up
Hmm.
now and are out there, Riz, who's vocal about stuff. That's really, visibility is one thing, but being vocal about your causes is another thing. And then what are you doing? Are you giving back? Like visibility is the first step, but certain people stop there. And, visibility here is often like high caste Hindus. And, I think it's important to be appreciative of like the people going through those doors and opening them. But, what are the choices like you're trying to make? Like, are you afraid to air dirty laundry? Like, is the desi image you present like CEOs and doctors, or is it
Mm.
like for drivers and the truckers? And I'm still my engineer, makes beats and then drives Uber. He's a Punjabi guy, and I guess like for me, I grew up around Haitians, Chinese kids, Latinos, Puerto Ricans, Dominicans, Indians, and the 90s. I'm kind of old. Like the 90s were that time, and I think for us, like Black music provided a language of rebellion that we didn't have in our own culture because rebellion and risk taking is kind of looked down upon in
Mm-hmm.
Asian cultures as like a repercussion of like colonialism and not having anything and having it taken away. So you don't want to take risks. But um, you know, I think we have a long way to go. And like, are you making this for like who's the audience is always the question. Like, are you making shit as a South Asian for your audience? Like how, what do they let you do? How much do they want it to be? Like, I don't say whitewash, I say color wash. Like they want it to look Bollywood. And, music is one thing I do, but the film I'm working on is more about like the failure of arranged marriage and you know drug addiction in the South Asian community and communalism and Pakistani and Hindu love and you know kind of xenophobia and like those are the kinds of things that I want to explore and like I'm friends with a lot of South Asians that are a lot more famous than me and it doesn't bother me because I know like my lane is doing like weird subversive kind of like me. Like, I'm not trying to be like Hollywood. I want to make weird shit about heroin. I think America is still creating like South Asian content that is just kind of to me like a little kind of corny.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, like to be honest, like a lot of our representation prior in like North America is just like either you're this like weird sexless nerd or you're one of three different tropes and they just kind of play that and it's not represented in a real way where it's celebrated. It's like, oh, these are hardworking people. It's just like a punchline. And I think what you're describing here is so important. It's just like I always get from your music this sense of realism and authenticity that isn't kind of hiding flaws, but it's not, and it's also not failing to celebrate, a lot of the great things that we can celebrate in the culture.
Yeah, I mean, one thing about me is that like I can't really like the honesty and vulnerability is like right there. And it's just a lot of my music is like subconscious and like I just think it's a good opportunity. I was a part of a sitcom in 2017 about my life and we developed it for a network and even that was kind of like sitcom-y and I hope to get to make other shit. But yeah, I mean, I can't help but be honest and vulnerable. And I'm not very like how do I say? Like strategic in a like I just am me and I can't help it.
Hmm. And given all of that you've done so far and what you hope to do in the future, you're talking about all these future ventures. What is the legacy and or like impact you really hope when it's all said and done you've created with your career and your art?
Yeah, it's like a really good question. I mean, I now after not making music for 5 years, like these kids call me OG and GOAT and it's like a really polite way of saying I'm old, but also I've made an impact. And it's interesting for me because I think when I started music in like 2010 with Das Racist, there were very few South Asians at the shows. And then when I did Heems, it became like more integrated and I talked more about like 9/11 and Indian experiences. And then Swet Shop Boys just went straight South Asian, like all the way. And so, I think the audiences are all like there's a bigger South Asian audience now that are into like culture and equality and art and music and just kind of a wider taste than what I was like familiar with in the 90s. So
And when I think about it, as you talked about when you first started, like, was there a like were you when you were maybe 2012, 2013, when things were really like hitting it off and you were getting a lot of your first taste of like real fame with Das Racist, as you were transitioning into Heems, like during this time, because you were a pretty young person at the time, like were you aware of kind of the influence you were having? Or was it kind of just like you were doing your own thing and really focused on the day to day?
I was talking to a friend about this who like shows at Paris Fashion Week, a designer, and I was just like, I mean, he was like exhausted, but I'm like, you you definitely like want to be grateful and like appreciate it because so many people like want to do it and you get to, but it's also like very tiring. And I think you don't want to walk around being like, oh shit, like, you know, I'm the man or clout or, my to this day when I make a verse and I come out of the studio and it's really good, I'm just like, oh shit, I could do that. Like I could do that. That's me. And so certain things you get proud of. Like for me, like new things I'm proud of. Like I never was around in the playlist era. So to get on Pollen recently and to get on Antipop, that was dope. We were on Hot 97. We've done that before, so that was dope. But like I've done this a while, so it's really interesting to think about like what things still excite you. Um, the music videos I'm making are exciting. The cover art, like that's the thing. I'm like really, it's the world around the music. Like the music comes naturally to me, and I don't think about it, and I kind of just tap into like I write quickly, and whatever's in here comes out. But the cover art, the videos, you know, like even building this Veena brand, it's like you put an album out, it's just an album. Sure, performance, but for me, like I wanted to take all like you asked about a legacy. Like I want a legacy of being like a person who can pick whatever bits of culture off the shelf of like the grocery store and do something with them and make something of them. So like if you look at Vina, it makes no sense, but music brings me joy. Fashion, brings me joy, and like Ayurveda health, I have a serious yoga practice and have gotten a lot healthier and want to share, you know, a lot of the things that have helped me. Plus, like if white people are making mad money off of like turmeric and ashwagandha, I want in on that.
As you fucking should, man. Yeah, I mean, you're just describing really like I just feel like I'm speaking to, unsurprisingly, just a true artist. Like you're taking all the things you love and channeling it in the way that you were given the talents to do, which is just to rap, not only rap, your creative work in film and
Oh,
even
you know
just
what?
like the way you carry your business out right now with Vina, like it's just really exciting.
I mean, I'm like most excited about publishing, like, and I'm really blessed to have great relationships with like peers that I respect a lot, like Kaveh or Sarah or, Mayuk Sen. And so to get these writers to be a part of what I'm building is so, and we pay them. There's other publications that like don't pay writers. Like we want to pay them. We don't care about advertisements. We want you to write what you want to write. We have an editor. And that's one part of the world. Then there's the products, health, music, fashion. We hope to get to like real menswear and have a designer. We're doing scarves this year, shawls, not just t-shirts, like any merch or streetwear. And yeah, like with the vinyls, that's racist shit is moving. Then LaFander will be out on vinyl. History, the first Veena artist, Lapgan, who produced it, that'll be on vinyl. Cool Compete. Um, I don't know if you're familiar with his
Oh,
work.
I am.
Yeah,
Here,
so
seeing him on this shit was what the fuck?
he's on Vina and LaFander, and I got him on the joint with Lee Scott, and I helped him get Lost reissued, so that's gonna come out, and I'll have some of those on my shop, and yeah, then eventually I want to get into doing reissues from India, like after my music is done.
That's sweet. And so like let's get into Vina a bit. So this officially launched very recently. And for those listening, this is a lifestyle brand magazine that you started. And I found it really fascinating when I perused the Our Story section on your
Yeah.
website. Because you detail what really led to the creation of Vina and how really you were in a period of time that was unfortunately dealing with a lot of immense grief and loss, and positively how that kind of really turned into a period of great healing and growth through the support of your mother and just particular practices and products that helped you through it. So describe to me like how leaning into your roots, embracing your culture and spirituality to an even larger degree than you ever have really ultimately helped you learn something and contributed to this recent transformation period for you.
And like, I've always been this kid since I was like very young that had a sense of like pride in being Indian and, um, even like going to SOAS in the UK and studying like, South Asian studies and film and economic development and Mughal history, that stuff is kind of always been there. As far as Vina goes, man, what it really is a way for me to combine all the things I like into one kind of project and to do more than music and, you know, like I don't want to get too much into like my personal story, but I could say I feel comfortable with you to say, issues around mental health for sure, like CPTSD, PTSD, severe depression, general anxiety, like body dysmorphia. And so a lot of that, my PTSD from 9/11 really started being an issue in my mid 30s, like when I hear loud noises or, you know, smell like fire or sulfur or I'm around like big crowds, my story of being down there
Mm.
in 9/11. And so yeah, and chemical dependency, obviously. Like I don't talk about it a lot. I don't want to be just kind of reduced to my issues
Yeah,
with
absolutely. Yeah.
chemical dependency. But I could say, after Swet Shop Boys, I was really happy to work on Spotify India and like give other South Asian artists a platform and be all this shit is about in those places is having a guy in the building. And when I left, a lot of people were like, fuck, like now our guy in the building is gone. And
Mm.
that was great. Audio Mac, I launched Punjabi. I was going to launch Meena. I became the head of UK and Canada using diaspora, using Jamaican, like Nigerian music in the UK, Punjabi music in Canada. And you know, then I just kind of missed it and like wanted to see if I could still do it. And yeah, like reconnecting with my mom after my dad died. And, there's that emotional angle of it, the warmth and the nostalgia of like your mom or your dad. And, even in my favorite movie, Pyasa, that has the song of Tel Malish, Sar Tera Jo Chakaraye, Ya Dil, Aja Pyare, Champe. So it's just, when you think about this like nice thing, like your hair is so soft, you used to get made fun of it while you putting gas in your hair. And I'm like really proud of Indian hair and putting it on your skin, putting it in a bath, now like mouth pulling. I think that was some Indian shit that white people do now. Um
That is definitely the truth.
like I made a brilliant Carolyn curry with my coconut oil. And I just think it's one of those things like, yes, ashwagandha, yes, turmeric, but this thing so many uses. I mean, I say one for your bedroom, one for your kitchen, one for your bathroom. That's like what Vina is. I'm interested in writing, I'm interested in design, I'm interested in fashion, I'm interested in music. I'm interested in health and India and import export and commerce. I'm not gonna lie. I'm a commerce oriented person. So it was a pretty ambitious project and 2 albums. But we're rooting the whole Vina thing outside the album. So hopefully come for the music and then realize there's something interesting going on here.
Yeah, and before we bring on actually your person aforementioned Lapgan here from Vina, what were some lessons like just throughout your career, Greedhead, past experience with labels that you were able to apply and kind of think, okay, I know what happened that was good or bad that time, and I know what to do for Vina.
That shit always sucks, man. Like any part of it, like of getting like a deal. But if you put your shit out quietly, it could be anticlimactic. And, Greedhead, I had my own shit for That's Racist Relax. Eat Pray Thug, I signed to a label and they really fucked me
Hmm.
by taking back the That's Racist advance through just me. So the money before we broke up that me and Vic got, they recouped that from just me. And like that shit fucked me up, made me not want to.
Hmm.
And then Riz came along and I thought could be fun to do. Radino's super talented. Me and Riz are good friends. And I thought I hadn't made music in a little bit. Like between Swet Shop Boys and DR, I toured Thailand, Vietnam, Nepal, Malaysia, Korea, Japan, Macau, China, Hong Kong, and just went around. And then yeah, Swet Shop Boys, we did Coachella and other stuff. But here I'm kind of just like coming back. Can I still do it? I had some time. I signed Gaurav and was like, okay, this is like Nehru Jackets, but more like me than, Mike Finito and Def Jux and LP and, you know, shit with Gaurav was so smooth. And then yeah, Veena is a much more ambitious project. Like I'm
Hmm.
singing psychedelic rock, I'm singing indie rock. I got Panda Bear on there, Mr. Cheeks from the Lost Boys, Navs 40,
Wow.
Cool Compete again. I got a drill song with the Jamaican artist and a Punjabi artist that we just shot the video for. I got a jazz rap song about partition and generational trauma. I got like some kind of funny pop shit like that's racist. And yeah, I'm still getting a whole lot of interesting people on it right now. Like, you know,
That's very exciting, man. Very
love
exciting.
A&R and this shit. I love A&R and this shit. I love getting like I used to hate asking people. That's why I didn't want to make music. Like I don't want to ask you nothing. I want your beat. I don't want you to. And now I'm like, fuck it. Like community.
I mean, that's what you brought with this new album. Like at least the one that we're talking about in just now. So,
I'll show you this too. We got basically we got Heems,
ooh,
Kashmir. We got Sufi Lao. Loved making that art. We got the new ones. Shut Up Dude mixtape. Sit Down Man mixtape. Relax. We might bundle these for the holiday and do
nice.
special maybe lyrics or something. And then LaFander, then Veena, then Nehru Jackets. Um, maybe a limited unreleased remix and compilation that's racist tape. And then hopefully reissues.
That's fire, man. I need that Nehru Jackets. I know you mentioned this like maybe over a year ago on Twitter one time, and I'm like, okay, gotta
Yeah,
have
it's
that.
just with the two new albums, like I gotta focus on that. And Nehru Jackets probably the art's gonna take a while. It's a double LP. The other thing is the sound quality was a little iffy on purpose,
Yeah,
but I think people do want that. But I think I did 500 of the DR mixtapes. I'll probably do like 250 of the Nehru Jackets.
nice, nice. All right,
So
cool.
what do you listen to?
Uh, hip hop wise, I feel like a lot of like the left field underground right now is catching my eye. So people like,
What do you think of the features on LaFander?
oh, I thought they were so good. It was so cool. Like just the kind of where you tapped the talent from. I was like very diverse. You got like legends like Cool Keith, I fucking obviously love. And then Fatboy Sharif, he's been on the show like at least 3 times, I think, or two, 3 times.
Yo, he
I
brought, he was the only one I was in the studio with, and he brought out like he wrote his shit on the train from Jersey. I wrote my shit on the train from Long Island, and we came in and just yeah, I don't know like what it was, but that verse I laid down, I'm really proud of. It's a very intentional verse for me. Like the way I kind of cadence my voice and stuff and
yeah,
so it was really fun. I just hit up like I don't even know Blue that well. He was like, I got you. Mikey Rocks, I don't know him that well. He was like, I got you. Probably Chris, I know. Open Mike Eagle, I know a little bit. Sonny Jim's family, Abby's the homie, Lee Scott's the homie.
Drew you've already collabed with before.
Droog and me got a good thing going. Me and Drew were talking about being the new Das racist. And Sid Sriram and me made music like 10 years ago. So seeing him blow up has been amazing. And yeah, I mean, Cool Compete again, we became pretty close. He actually designed the t-shirts for Veena with me. He used to work at like Supreme and Polo. It's fun. It's family. Like hearing Cool Keith call me the American Dream. Like hearing on Vina, Mr. Cheeks from the Lost Boys, like talk about like Heems. Like it's crazy. It's crazy.
No, that is insane. And you can really hear that. Like I love, like you said, you end that song, "Who Cool Keith." Like I made a song with Cool Keith, something along those lines. It was just like I don't know. I could feel the gratitude from you, and that's like that's really sweet to see, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think me and Yorma from Lonely Island or Planet, the the Andy Samberg rap group.
It's a Lonely Island. It's Lonely Island.
Yeah. So me and Yorma and Cool Keith got a song together. I don't know when he's gonna drop that.
That's crazy. But yeah, that Yo Mama shit, like it really felt like you were like giving like a final closing, like just like I'm here, I'm him type moment. I don't know. That was a very impassioned verse, I felt like definitely one of the strongest.
Yeah, I like that. I need the dough shit. Again, like sometimes I feel like I mean he calls me OG too, like Fatboy Sharif when I met him. So I got surprised. I was like, people really fuck with me like that, damn. And it's not something I walk around thinking about, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I'd be a dick if I did, you know?
With me now, we got Lapgan, producer for the upcoming album that many of you will be hearing very shortly, LAFANDAR, as well as the first Veena release history. Lapgan, so happy to have you on, man. Thanks for coming.
Best
Thanks.
new producer in the game.
Yeah, yeah.
I
I
don't know.
co-sign that heavy.
I believe it, bro. I'm like a big fan. And now it's like mutual. When we first started talking, Gaurav was like a fan of mine, and then working with him, like the friendship is there. Like I don't need to tell him what to do. He's listening to my shit. He gets it, and it's been really like a easy peasy like project and a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really flowed very, very smoothly.
Yeah. So before we get into this new record, I want to just kind of retrace your steps here back to history and last year. Just a fantastic instrumental album that, I mean, it just pulls on so many influences that I love. And just first starting with history, like what was your main inspiration when it came to like the type of sounds you wanted to put together on this album?
Yeah, so I think with history, I wanted to kind of move a bit away from just Bollywood and Lollywood and kind of get into more, explore different sounds, different regions, different genres within South Asian music. And because the whole idea for that one was like, I wanted it to be like a concept beat tape where it was like almost like each track was like almost a chapter in like a history book or something like that. It was like so basically it was like a progression. So, I was trying to find some like music from Rajasthan, some music from South India, like just it was I think initially I was trying to like be very ambitious and go everywhere, but I think in terms of like the sampling material that was available, I kind of basically tried my best to get what I could. So yeah, I think that was like the guiding force of what I was trying to do.
Yeah, I think it was really cool because there are some moments that like I think actually it was maybe a I think it was maybe like a Cabbages podcast. Shout out to them. Right up for this record where they kind of mentioned like some moments literally feel like they're like G-Funk spin-offs. Like, and that's just not something that people I think associate with kind of the Indian region when it comes to even sampling. So I just feel like the variety of
Like
grooves
the
and
Indian
everything
music.
was
It's
crazy.
Chicago though, like he's from Chicago, you know. Like I don't, I think like the G-Funk shit is actually really interesting because a lot of like the early Punjabi music from like Canada was really influenced with like piano beats and like, West Coast production. But
Hmm.
I think what's really interesting to think about is not like Indian music and G-Funk, but I guess for a guy from Chicago to be influenced by like California or like other places. Because I think like with Gaurav, you hear the diversity of sample collection, right? And you haven't really had like Indian crate digging shit since, Dan the Automator, Bombay the Hard Way, you know, Beat
Be
Conductor.
conducted, yeah.
So I think it's that same diversity of like regionality. Like, yes, film is there, but what about Carnatic? What about, you know, like other forms? What about religious? What about Pakistani? What about Lollywood? What about Qawwali? And I think similarly, like as Americans, like, you're from Chicago, there's drill. LA, there's, G-funk. New York, there's, everything. So it's really like mixing together influences like in a lot of different places and trying to make them sound coherent, which I think is done well.
Yeah, 100%. And like I've just generally had this belief for several years right now that I just feel like Indian music is one of the most lucrative, untapped resources when it comes to specifically sampling in hip hop. Like I just feel like from the vocals that feel like almost fake for how fucking perfect they are and buttery smooth, the sitars, the percussion especially, like we have such a crazy diversity and like crunchy different kind of drums being played. Like there's so much you can use, and I feel like you've used a lot of that to really great results. Like what are your thoughts on that? Like do you feel like more producers should be kind of working with more sampling in from that region?
I mean, I'll let Gaurav talk, but I know that like there are issues where Indians are a bit less like more risk averse, and so they don't want to like get sued for taking samples. And like Saregama and T Series in India are very like particular about being sampled and
Mm,
aggressive, taking down copyright stuff. But I'll get over this real quick. But when you look at sampling of Indian music in hip hop, and when you look at like hip hop in India, it's very much been a two-way, street. So of course there's Truth Hurts, Eric Sermon and Redman React. There's Jay and Kanye, The Bounce. Britney Spears had a Bollywood sample. There's a lot of examples of this. The Game, Put You on the Game. Mobb Deep and Young Buck, Give It to Me. Obviously MIA.
mm.
Um, there was uh,
Timbaland's used some stuff.
I mean, yeah, that was like actually Turkish mostly. Oh, but Indian flute. And then, there was other stuff like Dum Mara Dum and a Method Man song. And so there is this kind of interplay then, even if you listen to like Rakim and Paid in Full with Eric B, it's kind of like Arabic. And so, I think in crate digging, we'll only get so much out of soul and then you kind of go further. And so for us to see that, like we felt a part of the conversation if people were ever like, oh, you Indian, why are you listening to rap? And you're like, are you listening to this fucking Eric Sermon shit? Like Jay-Z on Punjabi MC. Um, and then, in India, it became like Baba Sagal and A.R. Rahman with Blaze and Bohemia. And, I think couple other important things happened. Charanjit Singh brought the 808 and 303 to India. Um, you know, like that that kid in Rangila that was like, dude, the penis, it tension. Hai." That was a good rhyme. Tension, tension, tension. What else? And then you have like South Asian rappers popping up that get respect, like Nav, or I think Apache Indian really opened the door. Bali Sagoo opened the door. Um, Punjabi MC opened the door. And then I think you get this Yo-Yo Honey Sing explosion. And then like the reaction is the Nazi and Divine. And then like an explosion of hip hop. Like and it makes sense because it's a voice of rebellion. And like like my music is protest music. And I think it's not like the Indian kids that are educated in London and here and there. It's great to see like actual kids in working middle class backgrounds, rhyming, doing ciphers, like really into like the roots of hip hop. For me, I'm like, when do you subvert it? So like that kid Gauntlet, have you heard that?
No.
It's just a little kid that curses a lot, but I'm looking forward to Indian rap getting weirder.
Yeah, I think I mean, I think people should do whatever they want to do, whatever they feel, whatever moves them, I think in terms of like untapped, yeah, I mean, it's crazy how prolific some of these music producers are. It's like these guys made like 1,000 albums. I don't know how many albums these people did, but there's so much out there, and India's a huge country, and Pakistan too, and there's like different regions. There's like multiple film industries within both countries. So I don't know. There's tons of stuff, not to mention the classical stuff and all the other stuff. So yeah, there's a ton. And then I think like when I was talking to Hema initially, I was like he mentioned something that I was like, all right, that made sense. He was talking about like how like sometimes you'll hear like an old Indian song or vocal or phrase that's like you never heard before, but like it feels like nostalgic and familiar and like feels like it hits you in the soul and it feels like I think that was like the big thing when I started listening to some older Indian stuff that was like very moving to me and kind of drew me even deeper. And like I'm still these days I'm sampling a whole bunch of stuff, but it's like I'm still hell excited by like any South Asian stuff that I can find, new South Asian stuff that can find. So yeah, I'd say go into it, keep digging deeper, see what moves you, and
I also think like there's a remix culture in India of like music, but not like a sampling culture that much. And
Hmm.
edits and all that. Yeah.
like when I did Nehru Jackets, we very much like were sampling digital stuff. But I think the, I look at like Gaurav kind of alluded to with history, that's like a soundtrack for a class he was never offered. I got those classes. Like I went to Wesleyan, I went to SOAS, I studied all this shit, but he really compiled like what I think is a thesis on sound and like modernity and I think art like the ethnomusicology and anthropology and like the real crate digging the in art it would be like found like so it's inspired me actually to look back at some of the things like I have which Gaurav doesn't even know about. It's really fun to rip them from like real vinyl is what I'm saying.
Hmm. Yeah, 100%. And, yeah, I'll just kind of cap off that talk about history just to say that I feel like it kind of gave me good music like that really inspires me to kind of do my own digging. And all that told me was like, damn, I can't lie and say I'm up to speed on the hip hop community in India like I should be, but just all of this other source material that you were like using. I'm just like, man, I'm so behind. But that's an exciting feeling. So I'm just like, there's so much music I can listen to, and that's as someone who loves music, that's like kind of my point of living, I feel.
Yeah, same,
Yeah.
same.
I think
So
like
let's get into this new album now. I really want to get into it. So it's
Do
titled
it.
LAFANDAR, and for context for the listener, this is a Hindi word, and there's not a direct English translation necessarily, but basically kind of words like carefree, free-spirited, um, are kind of ways to describe this, and even sometimes involved in mischief would be someone.
it's a little
And
more negative than that, but not like angrily negative. It's like a wanderer, like a loafer, a loomer, like I like the idea of a flaneur, like
hmm
a vagabond, and I think that could be interesting in the context of like art, person
yeah.
who's
Yeah, and I feel like this was a really nice descriptor for this particular album because there's a real nice eclecticism and just kind of I think just like I'm following what I want to do in this given track, and yet it still is definitely cohesive, don't get me wrong. And then I think the other part that's just really fitting about it is that I just feel like this album is just could not have been made by two other people than the two people that came together and made this, from the lyrical references to the musical source material and all the sounds that you put together. So really just starting with this, like what is the kind of listening experience or feeling you wanted to evoke within people with this new album?
Gaurav. I think you set the tone, and then I kind of react.
Yeah, I think, I mean, it kind of was just, I think the way that this came about, it was kind of very just, I think we almost called it like loose emotions at one point or something like that, but it was like very just
Oh,
like,
I always had the name loose, not loose motions, loose emotions.
that's what I said, loose emotions.
I was into the concept of like gala tikka and no nazar and like, kind of like a flex, but also like, Indian culture. But then I thought like I'm not like a flexy guy, like Lafander. I think Lafander is the British interpretation of Lafanga.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but you know, I'll say it like one more time, this idea of like a flaneur from like French poetry is very similar, and it's somebody that kind of travels and takes things in and is intellectual and is like almost a student. But somebody in actually Delhi called me that, and I was like, "What the fuck does that mean?" A flaneur is a French noun referring to a person, literally a stroller, a lounger, a saunterer, or loafer, but with some nuanced additional meanings. Flannery is the act of strolling, with all of its accompanying associations. Yeah, so like I was kind of interested in, and the visuals like kind of will show that, but yeah, a wanderer, like wandering through music, through India, through New York, through London, and through sound, and you know,
I think it fits. I mean, we kind of like wandered our way through this album. It started as like I think he asked for some like history B-sides that I had, and so started with that. And then I think we kind of like flirted with the idea of it being like almost like a sequel to Narrow Jackets because I was definitely very influenced by Narrow Jackets in a lot of ways coming up. So it was almost like Narrow Jackets too. So I was like making pulling out stuff from the vault, making like new stuff with Indian samples, and then after that I think like we had a bunch of tracks and then we kind of just veered off a little bit. I think we started once Hema started getting other people to hop on the record, we started kind of building. I started making different types of beats to like, fit some of the new people he was trying to get on there. So it kind of just flowed, you know, we kind of just wandered our way through the year and it kind
I
of
mean,
all
like, I think one thing that happened is like the Yellow Chakras beat, I wanted like 8 people on, and the only two people, I'm not gonna blow up spots. The only two people too busy to get down, three, Wiki, Mayhem, and Yoshi T. But they were mad busy. But everyone else was like down, and we took that song with like 8 verses on Yellow Chakras, and we were like, "Yo, let's split this up and have like 4 songs and change the beats. Check with the guys, they want to redo their verse to make it fit more."
Okay, nice.
And then we
Yeah.
went back and like, I think I said this earlier, but I don't know if it was this interview, but like, it was really nice. Like they're not all people I know well, but they know me and they know spiritually like we're a part of the same kind of thing. And so it just felt really nice like to be validated by like my peers and not made to be like something else. And I think Gaurav, everyone's like, who produced this? Who produced this? And in many ways, like he's our signee. I want him, he's like one of my favorite artists. And so doing the album with him makes sense. And then Veena's almost like the third part of like this trilogy, but Gaurav's not on that. It's a different producer.
Interesting. So yeah, I mean, I think that's what I kind of get from this album. It just feels like a celebration of a few things. It's not really a celebration of one thing, like of just culture or like even Heems, like your success in the rap game, I feel like is a part that I think of just in the sense of being able to enlist such heavyweight artists that not only decided to work with you, but gave you such A+ material. The respect that they showed to you as well as to Gaurav Lapgan here with the production. Like I just get a really fulfilled. I feel like I get this feeling of gratitude. I think I said that before, of just gratitude and skill, really, and all put
I'm not
together in a
sure.
package that makes sense.
I said this about like Bourdain, but like after a while, like fame, money don't mean shit. Like validation from your peers that like you respect, that is the ultimate kind of gift in this thing. And like I've said this before, like the best part of making music is like sharing it with your friends, that feedback from people you love, and like before you give it away and it's not yours, and then the people on Reddit like talk their shit. When you're making it and you're just communicating almost effortlessly when your friends like it, that's music.
it was fun. I mean, making this album was really fun. It was my first time producing, for a vocalist really, and doing it with Heems was like, that's like a dream come true. And so, yeah, the whole process was just fun. It was like every time we'd send a new beat, me and Sean, who executive produced, and he's my manager, we'd just be like
And
waiting.
my head of A&R at Vino.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
We'd just be like waiting to see what Hema would come with, and like he'd come back like 30 minutes, an hour later with a verse, and we're just like, damn, like that's amazing. So it was like for us, it was like every new track was just like a new gift, it was like especially with the features too, is like to hear what people were gonna come back with, and it was just yeah, just like every like month or a couple weeks, we'll get a new track and be just how exciting that'd be like all we would listen to for like that week or like that month. And
That's
then
awesome.
Like for me, that was conscious too. Like I wanted all these rappers on my favorite producer shit, and I want to hear people on Indian samples that like normally wouldn't fuck with it. I feel like it's a new kind of music, and I'm curious like how will Quelle do on it, how will Open Mic do on it, like and then again like soul with Cool Keith and like the other kind of genres. The shit with fucking Sid Sriram is just wild.
Yeah, I feel like sonically, I just feel like it's really refreshing and creatively well executed. And something that I really was particularly impressed with was just the different musical tones that were struck in the production. So you got like this more kind of mo mournful, somber beat on accent. Then you got these like upbeat,
Nah,
colorful instrumentals.
but then the drums on Accent are like so reminiscent of just like good underground drum programming. Like remember LP, that song Drum Pattern Awareness? It's just like
Mm,
I love the sample is beautiful, the verse is, I think it's fine. I made it. Saul Williams is amazing, but I really think the drums he like brings in there, bring it to another level, like with that sample. Like the sample's soft catchy, but the drums are like a little, like very rappy. And so, there's a lot of different sounds at play.
yeah, yeah, I actually, and that was the kind of the other thing I was gonna mention is that there's also these beats that, like, yeah, there's the upbeat, colorful instrumentals like I'm pretty cool, but there's also these beats like Going for Six, Baba Ganoush that have just this crazy classic hip hop knock that deep bass lines, heavy grooves, the Yo Mama beat, like when the sample, the string sample comes on, I kind of thought it might have been a drumless song that I was gonna hear, which would have been great. I do love that sample, but those drums are just so fucking huge, and I just loved what you really put together here. So just describe to me, Lapgan, like what was the kind of musical palette you were aiming for to create for a rapper like Heems on this record?
yeah, I think a few different things, I think part of it, a lot of it was just I think like because I didn't have experience producing for vocalists, it was like because there's like a difference between I think making beats that are just meant to be heard on their own versus like beats that you're making for somebody to rap on or sing on. So
Yeah, there's a certain element of space you need to kind of carve out for the vocals. Yeah.
yeah,
That's it.
so I think initially I was like just making just like stuff that I thought was cool, and then Hema would come and flow on it in some crazy ways. Like I'm pretty cool and like what's the last one? Bukayo Vastasa, like that one, like
Yeah, like, I don't think I asked you to change anything.
no, no, you didn't. So like I think until later on, midway through, I started thinking about, you know, creating some more space, kind of getting influenced by some of the people, that I've really been digging lately. Like I've been a big fan of like Conductor Williams. Yeah, I think some of that type of stuff. And so just trying to channel some different energies. And even on like Kalatika, like that was like a different kind of like a different energy beat, something that I'd never heard him rap on before. So and different from the stuff I usually make too. So
The other
um
kind of like thing is that like I wanted to make like a real rap rappy rap album, like almost so I could for once and all like finish the conversation like can he rap, is he this, is he that, like maybe it's my insecurity, but after That's Racist and then Swet Shop Boys is global, like Pakistani Indian, and I know people like Bangladesh a lot and people like but people hear Bangladesh and they're like who the fuck is that, like I did On the Radar the other day and the guy was like are you the manager or producer, and I'm like I'm the rapper. So with this album, I kind of want to like get it out of the way, and most of Veena was done. And Veena, I'm doing like psychedelic rock and post punk, but I'm doing like a song with a Tamil artist that is like pop. I'm doing a song with Mr. Cheeks, Cool Compete. I'm doing like a pop song. I'm doing a drill song with the Punjabi Jamaican artist. It's like a lot of the different genres that I listen to, and I felt like with LaFander, I got like the one for you out of the way, and then with Vina, like this is me now. Like one for you, one for me is the way a lot of artists think about shit. Like, you know, here I could rap, leave me the fuck alone. I'm gonna try this shit, you know?
That's good. That's gonna be a good 1-2 punch, I'm sure. And man, I think you succeeded because that was one of my other main takeaways, other than the sound, was that you are like rapping as sharp as you've ever rapped, and you're also like, it's not like you're just all of a sudden losing what you were known for, like the hilarity, the funny wit and charm is still there. Like on Kalatika, you have that like hilarious scheme where you mix up your V's and W's, like it's like it's not it's on two levels. One that's hard to pull off, but obviously like the reference to like Indian people speaking like that. It's
That
just like
shit
so
happened
creative.
naturally. Like I'm born here, I grew up in Queens. I code switch a lot, but the VW it comes out. Like I'm Indian. Like I will, you know, I will Volkswagen the shit out of this place, you know. So I kind of like once I fucked that up, I like doubled down on it.
And you got like lines like I don't know, I don't think it was on this song. This might have been on like Yo Mama maybe, where you say I roll around with two glizzies like I'm Slavo Zizek.
Yeah.
I don't even understand what that bar is, but I just felt I laughed and I'm like, that's hard. I know who that dude is. I didn't get it, but I was like, that's hard. I love
I'm gonna put
that.
you on real quick, all right? I'm gonna put you on. So Slavoj Žižek, you know, philosopher, Wilder. Um, I recommend checking out his you know, YouTube's, but this happened a couple months ago. So I want to share this with you. And yeah, I guess on this like album, I kind of went back to like hyper-referential, but I wasn't like trying to be funny, you know. It's just kind of you get so many words to rap, so you're gonna be like who you are, you know. Like nobody gave Biz Markie or Kanye shit for being funny, you know.
Hmm.
I'll be sure. Here, I'll just do this. So Slavoj Žižek was filmed walking down the street, eating two hot dogs, double fisting.
I had to Google this one too.
You did? Yeah. So like you actually had to Google shit, right?
Yeah, I had to Google a decent amount of shit for sure.
I like that. Like I like rap for that reason, like decoding, deconstructing, and like
Absolutely.
rap genius for like fucking that shit up. But I want you to like 5 years later catch some shit and be like, oh fuck, you know?
Yeah, some of my favorite hip hop has that element, and it's just like, yeah, lines like that just give you little pieces of culture in really interesting ways.
Yeah, and you know another thing that's funny is like after doing Swet Shop Boys, I didn't necessarily want to do something that was so rooted in like Indian music, but it this kind of production felt like a lot closer to me. And like I will say being a lot healthier, taking time off. Like, you know, I was worried like, you know, can I still do this? But yeah, you know, it's like riding a bike and I really just like with Gaurav, shit was easy, bro. You just send me shit, I'd do it, I'd send it back, he'd be happy. Like, oh shit, you know, you got Quelly Chris on my music, and
Yeah,
like he's not jaded yet. That's the illest part of working with somebody like that. I'm jaded, bro. We were on the radio. I'm like, I don't care. Y'all stay up. Y'all listen to it. You know, I'm like vicariously living through Gaurav, like enjoying these like kind of new things, you know?
that's awesome, man.
I mean, he's been
Yeah,
in music for a while, don't get me wrong. I'm just saying like with like like a lot of interviews I'll be like, I think you should talk to Gaurav. Like he shaped the whole shit. You don't need to hear from me again. So I just think like I always work with friends and you know, we hit it off as like friends just as we were making music. And when you do that, shit is like water.
yeah, and you know, Heems, you got a line on this new album where on Accent where you say, "How many likes will my hate crime receive?" off that really standout record. And you know, throughout your career, you've made it always made it a point to leave space. You said it just now in this conversation that you view your music as protest music. How important is it for you on this album and just generally to kind of like represent your values and your culture in a particular light?
It's just those are like the nuances of me. Like I care about equality. I care about people. I I'm a student of diaspora studies and Mughal miniature art. I grew up in Queens listening to like Capone and Noriega, and you know, I like poetry, and so it wasn't it was just all these kind of different parts of me coming together. And I think with rap, you get so many words that unless you're really trying to be someone else, like you're gonna shine. You get three bars I mean 3 verses of 16 bars. That's a lot of shit, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so the things you think about, and like again, not to belabor the point, but I write every verse in like 20 to 30 minutes, like with a gun to my head. And I look at it later and kind of think about it like abstract expressionist art. I'm not like, Jay-Z, I don't write. I write, but I really, I don't know why. I have a couple theories, but I just want to write quickly. Like this is just some shit I do and pretty nonchalant. And then I look at it and sometimes I'm like, oh shit, I said that. Like, yeah, like part of me needs a gun to my head to just like get it done with. And I used to like try to record an album in 2 weeks. This time I just go in like once a week, do one, feel good. And yeah, I guess I talk about things on like accent and stupid, dumb, illiterate. I talk about the immigrant experience. I think, a lot of clever little punchlines like, goat biryani. So there's always the Indian references because like straight up, I live in Hicksville, Long Island, surrounded by Punjabi people. I told you my engineer's an Uber driver was Punjabi, and you know, I like that's part of my life, so that's what's gonna come up. And I wasn't comfortable on That's Racist doing like too much Indian references, but when I started doing my own shit, I was like, this is, what I could do.
Yeah, and I think that shines through real nice. Okay, so I want to give you guys a chance now to just talk about like upcoming work, whether it be projects, merch, music, other artistic creative ventures. I think some of them have been kind of sprinkled in, but just to kind of consolidate that conversation. Lapgan, you want to start with yourself? Like, what can people look out for, let's say, in the rest of the year?
Sure, yeah. I think aside from this album that's dropping this week, I think we're doing a history vinyl deluxe edition. So we'll that should be coming in this summer with some like only on vinyl bonus tracks. And then I think we're
Nice.
gonna do a digital deluxe version with some remixes from some people that I admire. So that should be cool. Other than that, I guess got a bunch of new vinyl, so I'm gonna be working on a couple new projects. I don't have a timeline specifically on them, but I think one of them is going to be another kind of beat tape type of thing. I don't know what the concept is going to be yet, but I've got a few tracks so far. And then other than that, I think I'm trying to get a little more experimental with it. I'm working on some electronic stuff and some.
And like we can talk about it. Like me and him are gonna make another album. That's like different.
Yeah, that too.
That I
Okay.
mean, come on, man. You don't sound that excited, B.
I'm excited, man. I'm definitely for May. We're gonna.
You're be too busy for me now that the artist development is going well. So he's gonna,
No,
he's
never
gonna
too busy.
So is that coming out? Did you say it's coming out in May, or is it you're gonna start working on it in May?
We're gonna start working on it. We haven't really got any tracks yet so far, so
Okay. I was
we'll
gonna be
talk.
like, damn, that's a lot, but that's exciting. That's exciting for sure. And for you, Heems, you mentioned Veena, so that's gonna be the next project, I imagine, music wise, we'll be hearing from you.
lay it down on you. So right now, I did a song about Palestine and like social media, like social justice, like posturing, on a tape called the Olive Tape. You could go to Bandcamp, the Olive Tape, spend $12, and it goes to humanitarian aid. So I'm really happy about that. And then on my own shit, really happy with LaFander, excited for people to hear it. I think beginning to end, you could, enjoy it. And it's just like like I said, it's a grown up, polished, kind of similar Nary Jacket type of thing. And then I'll probably get a video off of that. We just shot the video this weekend for Rocky. That's like a drill song with Punjabi and Jamaican artists on it. Gonna shoot another video for a song about partition. And then yeah, May 31st, Veena comes out with some just very different types of songs and like topic matter. Like, honesty, vulnerability, growing older, breakups, mental health, like chemical dependency, and just like real topics that I probably like wasn't in a good place to like explore or process back then. And more videos. And then yeah, Veena, the brand, is really the world that all of this is in. So in May we'll have more t-shirts, we'll have LaFander on vinyl. We'll have another magazine issue around home, and then turmeric, rock salt, jaggery, maybe scarves. And then we hope to keep doing shit. Soap, incense, candles, then Veena on vinyl. And then yeah, Nehru jackets on vinyl. I want to do unreleased remixes and compilations. That's Racist on vinyl. Maybe some shit with Vijay Iyer and Rafiq, and if I could license it in Casa. And yeah, and then after my shit, I really want to reissue some vinyl. Another thing that we were kind of talking about, like I had Rock Marciano on the That's Racist mixtape in 2010.
Yeah.
And, you know, to see like him, Griselda, you know, like Alchemist, like that kind of world of, rap kind of become popular again, is amazing. And, it's something I kind of came up listening to and then stopped. And so I think it's kind of like a good time for music like what this is to be out there again. And then on the other one I get to really explore like I said, other shit that I'm into. I came up listening to like Stone Roses and Television and, My
Mm.
Bloody Valentine, and those are things I want to explore. So it'll be exciting. And now I will quickly show you some of these vinyls. Okay, cool. All right, so
There we go.
and all these, I'll let you borrow. Bismillah Khan, Amar Prem, Mahindra Kapoor, Mamta, Natwarlal. This is Amitabh doing some like funk shit.
Nice.
Yeah.
What?
Roti, Kapra, or Makan, 7-inch sitar shit by Jubara, Chori Chori, Eli Raja, Samband, Pura, Pachim. These are actually not my favorite. Johnny Miranam, Mukesh. This is good. Yasa. This is like legendary to me. Muqaddar Ka Sikandar. Um, there's another good one. Paul Horn Inside Taj Mahal
I think
and
I've heard that one actually.
MS Subbalakshmi. This is fire, yo. Amar Akbar Anthony. Remember that song? I was like, John, Johnny, Janardhan. Ba-da-dum, bum, 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 bum. That was a good one.
Yeah, I'm
Barda,
gonna
Barda,
these.
Barda. My name is Anthony Gonzalez. DDLJ. We did this. And really quickly, I'm going to show you like some special ones now. Have you heard of this garage beat compilation from a cigarette company in India in 71? They put these beat bands that were like punk rock bands in India, and they had this Simla Beat 71. And it's just like the Black Beats, the Eruptions, the Fentones, all like Velvet Fog, all these bands in India, like doing fucking cool rock and roll. Um, Wait, I wanted to reissue one of these guys. Confusions, Dinosaurs, and last one, since I don't want to bother you. I have Chandani in here, but last one is a 7-inch of Guru Dutt's Kagaj Ke Phool.
Where'd you get
Wait,
that?
I ordered these shits from India, man. Like, especially Guru Dutt. If you look behind me, there's a Guru Dutt poster that's from 1957. So anyway, I guess like, it's been really fun kind of looking into not just like typical Bollywood shit, but like kind of outside the box stuff. And yeah, I just think like even in India, like these records are just in like chore bazaars where they're like people there don't see any value in them. Like the
Mm-hmm.
Picasso poster, it's from 1957. in a row with like hundreds of posters. And I think maybe us as Americans find like more interest in this.
Yeah, that's my first memories of music are also my parents playing vinyl for me.
Oh, my dad has at least 1,500 cassette tapes of Indian music.
Oh, for real?
Wow.
You
Dude, I'm gonna have to come by this trip.
go to Jackson Heights and we would buy these tapes in the Indian stores, and we really couldn't afford them. And my mom would be upset, and then they would argue about it, and that made me always feel weird about money and music. Um,
Mhm.
Two things that are very important to me. And yeah, my dad, like, very working middle class person, drove a cab, worked like for the city, like delivered newspapers before he would go to a city job, but he loved like writing bad poetry and buying like all these cassette tapes. And I think it really instilled in me like an interest. My sister listened to pop and, SWV and 112, and I just liked, rap. And so music was always around. And then my mom's like a straight hustler, so doing the business part of it, like I couldn't avoid.
You know, it's really, really thankful for seeing you both on the show. Huge fan of your music, obviously, but just more than that, I just want to echo what I said at the beginning of this. Like, I'm just really inspired by what you're doing, and for Heems, it's just really sweet seeing you come back to music and come back so strong. And then with Lapgan, like seeing your talent level and get this experience for you, and you have so much more coming up. Like, it's just really energizes me, and it honestly makes me want to just keep learning more about my own culture. Like, I feel like that's kind of the main thing I want to keep saying, echoing, and that's like a special thing, honestly.
Come off like, there's a lot more South Asian people making like, I feel like they make content, they don't make art. Like there's a lot more, like influencers and less like artists. And, there's a lot of artists and I'm glad that they're trying. But when you come across an artist that is like Gaurav and is just like fucking raw and good and not gimmicky and doesn't sound like this is new to him and he just has that ear, it's a really nice thing because I worked at Spotify. I would listen to hundreds of diaspora South Asian artists, and you know, I playlisted a lot of it because they're South Asian, but like I'm gonna just keep it 100. I'm like really excited to see where like Lapgan goes because I think there's other genres and I think there's stuff that we want to do that is really exciting. And when you find someone new, but that you feel like you've known for that long, like where you don't need to tell them what to do, they just get it. It's a really nice experience, man. It's been really great working with you, Gaurav.
Likewise, Ema, likewise. I'm excited to keep it going, see what else we can come up with. But yeah, thank you, Rowan. Big fan of the pod. Happy to be on here. Big fan of all your amazing guests you've been bringing on. So it's definitely an honor to be on here.
Yeah, my bad for my like ADD. Um, what are your favorite songs? Top five.
On the record,
I'm a fan.
I'd say the intro, Baba Ganoush.
Intro with Sid 3 rounds.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I'd say the Baba Ganoush because that's the one I remember at Lapkan. I messaged you specifically, being like that beat is like fucking my life up in a good way. I think the outro when we were talking about that verse from you, Heems, is like really one of my favorites. And then I'd say the one with probably the one with Cool Compete. Oh, and then the one with Drew. Yeah, I think those would be a good five. Or accent. Okay, make it six. There we go. That's my six.
Baba Ganoush is Cool Compete, right?
Yeah, Baba's a cool
Oh,
compete.
okay, I said that one already. Yeah, okay, then yeah, accent would be the fifth then. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not going for six, bro.
I mean, that's so you asked me for five. I'm trying to obey the question here, but I mean, it's a very consistently great album. There's no skips to say the least.
Like, I'm really eager to see what people think. We've sat with this for a while and we're really excited to get it out there. And I guess if my shit has like made an impact on like other people, I'm glad to like continue that with this. And I really think this is one of the best solo efforts I've ever had before. And I hope Veena is also.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Yeah, so again, yeah, just thank you so much for all you do. And yeah, it's been a big inspiration on me. Big reason, definitely partial reasons why I'm even doing this podcast. Because I mean, I loved hip hop was the first prerequisite for me to decide to contribute in any way I can. So
But yeah, you have any questions? Like, I really enjoyed this. Again, sorry for being distracted. I had like a long day and a lot of India work in the morning. But any questions, reach out, man. I really appreciate the free flowing nature of the conversation, and yeah, let us know.
yeah, I mean, if you guys are in Toronto, like you said before, I would love to be your tour guide anytime.
Likewise for Chicago. Hit me up.
100%. Chicago's on the list for sure.
And
I need to visit.
the Vino label isn't just South Asian people. So if you come across somebody you think like we should check out, let us know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, with that, I'd like to say peace out and hope you enjoy the rest of your night.
Put the
Peace,
office.
peace,
Peace.
peace.
So there we have it, another episode of the Rap Music Plug podcast presented by QLC TV. I hope this episode gave you some new perspectives and insights into what the greatest art form known to man in hip hop music has to offer. If you want to support the show in the most meaningful way possible, it would be my absolute honor to have you as a patron in the new Rap Music Plug podcast Patreon. Through this Patreon, you will be getting exclusive content such as bonus episodes, exclusive album recommendations, exclusive playlists, early access to episodes, and more. And above all, though, you will be able to support the show directly in a way that will not only justify the crazy amount of time I spend on this show already, but allow me to cover some of the expenses related to supporting all of these great artists that we cover on the show through the website, and will allow us to sustain and build on this amazing growth that the RMPP has experienced recently. So if you have any questions about any of the Patreon stuff, or just want to keep tabs on the show, interact with me on rap music and all the great stuff that we can talk about, follow me on Twitter and Instagram at rapmusicplugpod, or shoot me an email at qlctv.podcast@gmail.com. You can also rate and review the show on Apple Podcasts and subscribe on YouTube and Spotify as well. But that's enough self-promotion for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Peace.